Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery with IIMFL and Smart Money Alliance. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, March 25th, 2021. Nowhere I'd rather be than right here with you, our distribution partners. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central, or about a minute before. Early bird gets the worm, right? And so we get together with our distribution partners who could be affiliates, credit literacy educators, or joint venture partners, and talk shop, talk about success stories, strategies, techniques, and maybe most importantly, answer your questions, address your concerns. On these Zoom calls, we use the question and answer function of Zoom. It's kind of like a chat box to be able to address. So at any time, feel free to type in questions, comments, concerns, and we'll address them as soon as possible. I do have 3 agenda items I want to cover. Hopefully my screen sharing, you see the new website, 60daycreditsweep.com. We reviewed it yesterday. It's a very useful site. It outlines the proposition of the 60-day credit sweep, has the place to submit your clients, and if you're offering it via white label, this is where you'll submit them as well. You'll just clarify that you've already collected the money on the referred by. And then secondly, there's some really relevant training videos where prospective participants or referral partners can learn about success stories, and we'll talk about another one here in a moment, a deeper dive into how it works, why it's legal, why it's credible, and then sales and marketing strategies and techniques. With that, though, our agenda today on March 25th is threefold, and we're going to start kind of with a high-level discussion of why is credit important? Because some of you are very much involved with our Access to Capital campaign. So we're helping small businesses build financial literacy and build their loan package to get funding. And so some of you have kind of pushed back and said, why are we talking about credit so much? Why aren't we talking about access to capital? Well, let's pull this together, because it's my fault, not yours, if you don't see the interrelationship and the dependence of one upon the other. So on this topic, I'll say it gently, because with you and I, we're kind of preaching to the choir, but I promise you, there are so many entrepreneurs out there, so many small business owners that don't know 1/100th of what you know. They lack financial literacy, and often they lack knowledge that they're not literate. So they don't know what they don't know. And so that's a shame on our educational system and all that, but that's where you and I come in to educate people. Well, if you want to raise capital to start or grow a business, you have to first decide, do I want to borrow money? Do I want to use debt? Because there's other types of money that you don't have to pay back. But if you want to borrow money, you want debt, you have to have at least one of the 3 C's. The more, the better. You have to have at least one of the 3 C's. And we've gone through this ad nauseum: credit, cash flow, collateral. You know that. But the average person doesn't know that. And we'll have people that enroll in the Access to Capital program. They don't know what they don't know. And I know it's somewhere between being sad and being comical. I don't know where it falls, but they just think, I've signed up. I just want my 100,000. It's like, well, we're technical advisors. We're not the lender. We're going to help you get from where you're at to where you need to be. But sir or ma'am, you have to be credible enough to get funding. You have to have at least one of the 3 C's: creditworthiness, cash flow, or collateral. No one's going to loan you money if you have none of the 3 C's. No one's going to loan you money if you have none of the 3 C's. Oh, this program won't work then. No, just the opposite. We do exactly that. We work with you to help you build at least one of the 3 C's. That's what we do. If you had all the 3 C's, you wouldn't be talking to us. You'd be down at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, or wherever, at Goldman Sachs, and they would be wiring you large sums of money right now because they want you. We work with the clients that don't have the 3 C's or don't have the loan packaging ready to get funded. So there are the 3 C's. Do you have to have any of those 3 C's to get funding? No. But do you have to have at least one of those 3 C's to borrow money? Yes, right? Because again, there's some types of capital you don't have to pay back that's not dependent on those three C's, like equity based, for example. So again, I'm sorry for being redundant. You know this like the back of your hand, but I'm telling you, so often clients don't. So it's okay. That's where our value proposition begins. We educate and we help them get from where they're at to where they need to be. Okay, so we're all crystal clear, hopefully, on the three C's. Well, let's go back to that. So, of course, different sources of capital have different underwriting requirements. So people will ask crazy questions, right? They ask the wrong questions. They'll ask, well, what's the minimum credit score I need? Well, it depends upon the type of capital, right? Each source of capital has a different underwriting criteria. Here's the analogy I started to use with the clients I mentor. Maybe you want to mimic this, or maybe you want to throw it out. But this is an example. And let's say we've got Joseph here on the call. I'll say, Joseph, imagine you and I standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder. We're looking out into a room, and the room is full of buckets, and each of those buckets is filled with money. So there's 100 different buckets in the room. Which bucket is right for you, your circumstances, your business? Well, underneath the bucket, there are requirements. And so if you meet those requirements, you can go over and pick up that bucket. But if you don't, you either need to go to a different bucket, or we need to work together to meet the criteria so you can pick up the bucket. So there's many different sources of capital, and simple questions often don't have simple answers like, well, what's the minimum credit score I need? Well, you might not need any credit score depending upon the underwriting of the type of capital. Okay, so let's say that you have someone and they don't have necessarily strength in any of the three C's, which we see frequently, and that's okay. We're not trying to filter them out. We want to grab them, get them in the Access to Capital program, put our arms around them and help them. That's what we're here to do. So if you don't have any of the three C's, which one do you think that you can change dramatically, meaningfully in 60 days? You think we can go create a bunch of collateral for someone in 60 days? I don't know how to do that. You're probably smarter than I am and you can figure it out. I don't know. So probably not. Can you go fix cash flow magically in 60 days? Well, certainly a better chance of doing that than just inventing collateral, depending upon them finding either new sources of income or turning up the volume on their sales. So yeah, you could increase cash flow. But probably the most practical way to improve one of the three C's within a 60-day, a 2-month process is credit. Why? Credit's fluid. It's always changing. So if we can help it change up, that would help a lot. And then secondly, credit doesn't have a memory, right? So you could have shitty credit today, great credit here soon, and the world sees your great credit. So credit is probably the one of the three C's that if someone's starting at a very low baseline that we need to focus on. Now, again, the more strength you have in the three C's, the more of the buckets you can choose from, right? The more access to capital you have. So I would go out on a limb to say an intelligent person, and I'm not probably one, but an intelligent person would seek to have optimal personal credit. Because personal credit is a 3-digit reflection of you, your credit worthiness, obviously, your character. Will you do what you say that you'll do? How risky are you? How dependable are you? So it doesn't make sense, even if you had max out on the other two C's. If your business was bringing in $1 million a month and you had all kinds of collateral, would it still make sense to try to optimize your credit? Of course. The more C's you have, the more capital you have access to, the better terms, and it's a reflection of you. Now, we've all gone through most of us have gone through life's experiences where there's been periods we had great credit and periods we had bad credit. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We just need to grab people where they're at, educate them, and help them get from where they're at to where they need to be. Great credit can mean different things to different people, and we've talked about this several times. It's the utility of credit. Can stronger credit get you better access to business loans and financing? Obviously so. Can better credit get you access to more options for housing? Absolutely, whether it be purchase or rental. Can better credit give you back better access to transportation? Absolutely. I went through the 60-day credit suite, and then I was able to go in. I'm not bragging, just sharing with you. I went into a Mercedes dealership, said, I want that car on the showroom floor, that S560 with the $10,000 back seat package. So it massages and reclines and all that shit. And I want that car, pull it off, and I'm going to buy it. And with great credit, you can go in and buy just about any car you want because they look at you as you being credible. You've paid your bills in the past, and no one knows what the future holds, but the best predictor of the future is the past. And in fact, the best predictor of the future is the recent past. So better credit can allow you to buy great cars, better housing, get funding for to start or grow a business. Credit is relevant. So if you start to wonder why we're talking about credit a lot, it's one of the 3 C's. And now we have a new arrow in our quiver that we didn't have before, which is the 60-day credit sweep. So are there any questions on why credit's important? And that's almost a terrible question, because I think it'd be hard to argue why credit isn't important. Probably the biggest opposition I would get is, well, my clients want business funding, so why does personal credit matter? Well, most of our clients are early stage small businesses. Some are pre-launch, some are in the startup phase. And according to the SBA's terminology, for example, startup is considered 2 years or less. So why does credit matter if we're trying to get business funding? Well, because most lenders, and again, there's different buckets out there and each have their own underwriting criteria. So there's exceptions, but in general, for normal business loans, bankers aren't fools, right? They understand that how the owner has paid his or her bills is probably a predictor of how this young business will pay their bills. So if the owner has stronger credit, the business has access to more funding. I thought I could just get funding under my EIN. Yes, there's some of those buckets out there in the room that when you look underneath, they don't look at personal credit. There are some of those, but there are many others that do for the very obvious reason. Okay, so we've covered credit. So let's move on to a recent success story. So this is a brand new one. It's not one we discussed before, just came in. A client started on January 14th, 2021. TransUnion 596, Experian 596, Equifax 596. 60 days in, well, that's not a misrepresentation, isn't it? Because technically it's 2 months and 4 days from when we ran the report again. So again, I'm not saying it took 2 months and 4 days to get these new scores, but that's when we ran the report again. Wow, let's look at the results. TransUnion went from 596 to 755. Experian went from 596 to 763. Equifax went from 596 to 776. This person can do what I did. This person can now probably walk into just about any car dealership across the country and pick the car off the lot or off the showroom floor they want because they look so credible. That's going to obviously also increase their ability to get business financing, which is more relevant. So I don't want to keep spending a lot of time on these success stories because they keep rolling in, and we had more than this. You come in yesterday, but the bottom line is it works. This program works. If someone is needing help with one of the 3 C's, especially credit, this program works if their circumstances are applicable. And there's no risk to them. We can get them started with as little as $100. Now it's $939. You make $100 of that, of course, or if you're doing white label, you can charge more or less. But we can get them set up on kind of a layaway plan, if you will, with as little. We can get their profile set up with as little as $100. If they don't have at least $100, then credit is not their problem. Cash flow is their problem, right? They don't have money to operate off of. All right, so moving to the third and final agenda topic. So We've talked about this before, and this is going to fall on deaf ears with some of you, and I respect that. Each of you have your own talents, and you're very successful in those things that you do in life, and we're honored and humbled to have you as part of our distribution team. But if you'll please consider, at least consider educating. People need the education, they need improved literacy, and you'll create a massive funnel, which will result in massive income for yourself if you'll educate. Now, we did a lot of educate. I was a college professor, you know that, before this, and before that, before working for the SBA, I was a high school teacher. But separate from that, before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of in-person education. Well, those opportunities kind of dried up, shriveled up over the past year with a few exceptions, but now it's starting to open up. So my plea to you is, if you're at all willing to consider it, and if your community should allow it, get out in front of people. Be real, get in front of them. I don't know that the world really wants another Zoom webinar, right? Let's get in front of people, even if it's a small group of 5 or 10 people at local churches, local community centers. I've had some outstanding success teaching about credit at apartment complexes. You can go wherever you want, there's people, but get in front of them, connect with them, and educate them about credit. Pretty much, the average person knows credit matters, right? They're not oblivious to that, but there's a lot of misinformation about how credit works and what they can do to move from where they're at. I mean, if you and I went and surveyed 100 people at the local mall today about, is there a legal, ethical, and affordable way to dramatically improve your personal credit in 60 days? I bet you the majority would say no, or I don't know of it, or damn, if that's true, sign me up, right? So we've had such a large portion of the United States population that has been impacted by the pandemic and other factors that have challenged credit. If you just go educate, your funnel will build and your income will blossom. We have the Credit 101 curriculum. We've had training courses on that. It can be taught online or in person. We have the participant guides. We have the instructor guides. We have the PowerPoints. We have the train the trainer materials. It can be set up as a little 30-minute presentation. We've got enough curriculum to go a full day. But it takes you. It takes you as the educator to go out and facilitate setting up these events and then teaching. Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. Is it a best practice? It is. It helps us fulfill our mission, and it's going to help you make more money because you're going to help more people. Now, what happens is if you go teach the credit workshop, and we recommend not charging people to attend the credit workshop, but that's really between you and the host. But if you educate people about credit, our expectation is nearly 9 out of 10 people will enroll in the Credit Boost program. Well, why bring them in the Credit Boost? Because it's the path of least resistance, isn't it? Because when they come into the Credit Boost, how much out-of-pocket cost do they have? What does it cost them to enroll up front in Credit Boost? 0. You and I both know people are more likely to try something, to enroll in something, if the startup cost is 0 than if it's something significant. So the pitch that I would do is, once you've conducted your credit workshop, you can use your own curriculum or you can use ours, we don't charge for it, then you just have a simple pitch. Well, great. Thank you for coming today. Now that I've educated you on how credit works, I'd like to give you the gift of better credit. And the way that we're going to make that happen is we're going to get you enrolled today in the Credit Boost program. There's no upfront cost, guaranteed results. You're going to love it. So let's take a moment and go ahead and get you enrolled. So it's almost like if you're an Aflac rep, or a Legal Shield rep doing a group meeting. You've got paper in front of them, you got pens in front of them, and you get them writing, you get them to sign up. So it's almost like they have to opt out instead of opt in. And with an audience of 10 people, you will probably get 9, maybe all 10 to enroll in Credit Boost. Now, once they're in Credit Boost, then of course we'll do our part. We'll be looking at their credit and we'll be putting together a strategy for them. Maybe they just need new positive trade lines. If that's the case, fine. They don't need the 60-day sweep. But some people will meet the criteria, would benefit from the removal of derogatory information using the Fair Credit Reporting Act, as shown here in the top of the website, Section 605B. What's in it for you? I'm not asking you to be a volunteer. So you're getting paid. If you can either do the white label on the credit sweep or not, so that'll determine if you're making $100 up front or closer to $1,000. That's up to you. But you know that you can make up to $5 per point on the credit score increase. Let's go over here to this client. Now on Credit Boost, we're only tracking and charging them off of Experian. And I'll have to get my calculator here on my phone. I wasn't a math teacher, so I don't want to mess up the number here. So let's do the math. So if they went from 596 to 763, so we're going to do the math, 763 minus 596, went up 167 points. So if you made $5 a point, you just made $835. What did you do to have to earn $835 plus whatever you got on the credit sweep? Well, you taught for 30 minutes or longer, and you help them enroll in the no upfront cost Credit Boost. And that's $835 off this one example of one person. What if 10 people in your workshop signed up? You just made $8,350. You made almost $10,000 by essentially teaching, let's say, a 1-day, 1-hour workshop. I know your time's valuable. I know you're smart. I know there's a million other things you could be doing right now. But man, when you can make thousands of dollars by helping people, by teaching a 30-minute or 60-minute workshop to fill your funnel, I don't know that it gets better than that. Okay, so we're going to get over to your questions now, because we've now completed my 3 points of the agenda. All right, so Stefan also mentioned, that credit is used in other ways as well, including underwriting for health insurance, car insurance. It affects every aspect of our life, and that's true, Stefan. I overlooked those elements, but you're correct. It's much more than just getting financing, for example. Kwong asked, is bad business credit, does it affect personal credit scores? No, business credit and personal are different. Now, some of those buckets we were talking about may look at one or the other or both, but in terms of credit profiles, your business credit profile is under your EIN, your personal credit's under your Social Security number. Scott asked, what resource do we have that best outlines who's a good candidate for a credit sweep and those who don't? Well, again, there's two ways to approach this, Scott. If you follow this model here, you just enroll everyone into Credit Boost and we'll filter them out to see if they would benefit or not. And so that's the simplest for you. Now, if you want to take out the white label program, so you're pitching it, you're closing, you're collecting money, then it's going to be based upon those clients that have derogatory information that would be impacted by 605B. So it depends. Some of you, and I say this very respectfully, but some of you are more sophisticated than others. Some of you are better closers than others. And so if you're more sophisticated and a better closer, then taking the white label out and closing deals on your own makes sense. But we've really built the system to be simple and easy, whereby you can just take the very simple step of getting them in Credit Boost, which has minimal objections, right? There's no upfront cost. People love that. People will sign up for that in by the busload as compared to if there's a fee up front. Thank you, Scott, for that question. Kwong's asking about what happened for this success story. This person went through, and Kwong's got a good point because I didn't put it here. I implied it, but I didn't say it. They went through the 60-day credit sweep, right? They went through this. They went through this, and this happened. They went through this, and this happened. Thank you, Kwong, for clarifying that, because I didn't make it explicit enough. Peggy agrees that training in person is better. And I think there's a little bit of a pent up demand right now. A lot of us want to connect with people, and virtual learning only goes so far. But it's up to you. I mean, if you all want to teach online and that's your thing, then that's fine too. Coach asks, yes. So the white label, which we talked about yesterday, not today, essentially just means this, is that you can charge the client whatever you want. You pitch it under your company name. You collect the money from the client and you keep your portion, and you send in the 893. I'm sorry, 839, because normally it's 939. We pay $100 out, so we're netting that out. So, but you're right, Coach. We're looking for white label partners that are generating consistently at least 3 conversions, 3 signups a week. If you can't generate that volume, then we don't really want you in the white label. Then we'll just do the normal way. Thank you, Coach. Peggy brings up a great point, and I don't completely agree with it, but I think it's important to go through. So here's Peggy's comment, and we'll discuss it. She says, most people in the minority communities have major issues with credit that blocks them from getting funding. She is advocating that this initiative should be done before signing up for access to capital. I don't discredit it. I think Peggy's right in what she's saying, but here's why I would do it differently. I would enroll them in both. I'd get them in the credit program, and I'd get them in access to capital, because there's more than just credit to get access to capital. So the sooner that we start working on those other variables, the sooner that they'll be capital ready, be ready for funding. So we need the business plan and the financial projections. Maybe the business isn't set up or not set up completely. So I like running both in parallel rather than completing one before starting the next, but that is your discretion. All right, let's see here. Greg has an email. Yep, I think I did get the email. Thank you, Greg. Stefan agrees that they want capital on 60 days or less. And let's role play that out a little bit. So let's say I have a client that's in access to capital. We've reviewed their credit, and now we're pitching, if you will, we're pitching the 60-day credit sweep. They haven't gone through a workshop. I'm not saying that. I highlighted the word pitch. So, I'm very transparent. So let's say it's today, it's March 25th. And let's say I'm talking to Kenny and say, well, Kenny, like I know, you have to have at least one of the 3 C's to get funding, right? If you want to borrow money, you have to have at least credit, cash flow, or collateral. The more you have, the better. Right now, Kenny, and I'm just role playing with Kenny. I'm not picking on Kenny nor his credit. So Kenny, right now, your credit is not strong. It doesn't make you look credible. It makes you look risky. What you may want to consider is our 60-day credit sweep program. Guaranteed, so there's no risk. But the downside is it takes 60 days. So what we'd be looking at, Kenny, right now, so if today's March 25th, we've got April 25th, May 20th, we'd be looking at around June 1st before we go to funding. So Kenny, is it acceptable to you if we help you remove those applicable derogatory items, but you understand we're not going to go to funding until June 1st? Is that acceptable? And so then Kenny has to decide, yeah. Now, if Kenny's smart, our Kenny's smart, but using a theoretical Kenny, a theoretical client would say, I really need funding before that. And so then, of course, that's where we get in a conversation. Well, great. It doesn't look like you qualify for funding before that. So what is your plan? What's your plan that's better than our plan? Because this should get you prepared for funding by June 1st. You're not credible enough now. All right, so let's move on. Scott's doing white label. Who do I determine is a good candidate? And again, it's just educating them. Either teach them or have them watch this information, or you can assimilate it And it's from this, through education of understanding what we do, and it's legal and ethical and moral and obviously effective, that people can make their own decision. Thank you for that question. John asked, and that's right, on Credit Boost, and it confuses, and sometimes I have mixed feelings, but so Credit Boost, normally the client has no upfront cost and they pay based upon the improvement of their personal credit scores. However, there is an option. They can pay a flat fee of $500 up front. You would collect that, John. You keep half and you send half into us. And then with that, they're still getting the same service, but they're not paying a performance fee based upon the credit score increase. So for that to apply, you would have to pitch it, you'd have to close it, you'd collect 500, you would keep half and send half to us. Still same Credit Boost program, but then they would have no performance fee on the back end. Okay, Robert's one of our more active joint venture partners that's actively mentoring orphan clients. And so what you would do, Robert, is if you're going to pitch them the white label 60-day credit sweep, then it really works the same as I've discussed. You would educate them, you would collect whatever amount of money you want from them, you would keep your part, submit our part, and since you're the guy that closed the deal, that money belongs to you. See, Dion's an affiliate focusing on access to capital. If one of the mentors suggests Credit Boost, will I get compensated for it? And that's a great point. So, and we've had a number of you that have moved recently from affiliates to mentors. The mentors are working with the clients weekly. They're paid $100 an hour, but they're working with the clients weekly. And so if you want to be involved with the clients and frankly, have those upsell opportunities by solving more of their problems, then you need to be a mentor because the mentor is doing the work. And so just like the key person policy, if the mentor's Robert's working with the client doesn't have a key person policy, Robert's going to solve that problem. Who's going to earn the commission off of it? Robert is. He's the one that sold the policy. So I understand that some of our affiliates say, well, I generated the lead. And so you get paid off of that. But if there's in-app purchases, for example, Robert helps them get their key person policy. Robert did that work. You didn't. You're not going to get any part of the key person policy commissions. So with that being said, just keep in mind, if you want to get more involved and have more client control, don't have Robert mentor your clients, mentor them yourself. Kwong asked, after 60 days, if the client gets no funding. Well, this is not a funding program. 60-day credit sweep, I should say, is not a funding program, right? It has nothing to do with funding. It has to do with using Section 605B of the Fair Credit Reporting Act to improve personal credit. Now, does improve credit increase access to capital? Of course, but it's very dangerous if you all start to merge these different programs. 60-day credit sweep is not a funding program. All right, let's see, we're running out of time here. Johnny asked, so if you're doing the white label, like a bunch of you are, we're on track right now to be doing about 100 credit sweeps a week here soon. We're still ramping up, but we'll be doing 100 a week soon. Right now, we're more on track of 100 for our first month. But regardless, a lot of you are just latching on to this. And Johnny, I'm glad you're asking. So yeah, you'll collect the money from the client, and then you can submit the 839 into us via Western Union, MoneyGram, Zelle, Wire. Those would be the most common. Some people do overnight checks. All right. And Robert was a great example. He was in Uber yesterday and had a conversation like most of us do when we're in Uber Lyft. Driver wants capital, and now the client signed up for access to capital. Okay, so I think we covered most of it. I've got to run to an appointment. So let's wrap it up, and then we'll be back together tomorrow morning. So credit is important regardless if you're trying to access capital to start or grow a business or in general. We've talked about the 3 C's. The only one of the 3 C's that you can meaningfully and drastically change in 60 days is credit. And better credit can do a lot of things for people. It gives them more options, more access to housing, transportation, business funding, and so forth, and also better terms. We went through the new success story, and I'm not going to keep doing this because pretty much every day we have new success stories. I'm just trying to clarify that it works. It works. And so at some point, you'll either believe it works or not, but the bottom line is it works. And then thirdly, and most importantly, maybe what we tried to emphasize is the fact that we need to be considering educating. Educating is a great way to be able to create a funnel and help people. All right, so with that, I've got to run to this appointment. Great to talk to you. See you back tomorrow morning. Let's keep swinging. Have a good day.